at another one of the celebrations within Israel, the celebration of Jubilee. And we probably shouldn't say Jubilee. We ought to say Jubilee, because it's intended to be a time of joy. And I want you just to think through that concept for just a second. I talked about joy in my prayer, thinking of why we should ask the Lord for joy, but God has intended that His people would be joyful. Remember, Jesus said that, "My joy I leave with you." I pray that your joy would be filled and would be full. And what we have to do as God's people is we have to fight. Think about it. You have to fight for joy, because there are so many joy killers in the world that want to come along and ruin your day and cause you to forget God's blessings. I think God is still good, right? God is still blessing. God is still on the throne. As I was observing, not really observing too carefully, but I didn't see a lot of smiles on your faces when we were singing "Count Your Blessings," but I'm sure they were in your heart. And you could see a little bit, that people were thinking about counting their blessings. That is what we should do. And so this celebration, this festival that we're looking at in Leviticus chapter 25 is known as Jubilee. Jubilee comes from the root word of blowing a horn. And so the horn, Jubal and Jabal, with the two fellows that you read about in Genesis, Jubal meant one who plays or blows on the horn. And what they would do is, as the time of the Jubilee would come around, they would blow the horn louder and louder, and there would be a great celebration, and people would have done their homework, and the moms would have made their chilies. And by the way, I keep telling my wife that I want to have chili at my funeral. So that's not a standing joke. It used to be a standing joke. Now it's a standing request. I want to have chili at my funeral, even if no one else does. I'd like to have a little bit around there for me. Whatever it is that the moms are making for this time of the Jubilee when it begins, the stew would be done, the lamb chop would be ready to go. They didn't eat meat every day, but on occasion they would, and this would be one of them. And it would be a time of celebration. Let me describe it for you before I read a little bit, just so you know what we're reading. There would have been rest every seventh day in Israel. So you work Monday through Saturday, Sunday would be the first day of the week, the day one, all the way through day 6, and then the seventh day was the Sabbath day of rest. And you were to do no extra work. You could feed your cows and you could cook your food, of course, but nothing extra, just the minimal, the necessary things that you would do every day. And then, in addition to that, there would be rest at the end of every 7 years. So 7 days, and then at the end of 7 years, there would be a year of rest. And on that 7th year of rest, you were not supposed to plant any vineyards or plant any barley or wheat or grapes or anything. You were just to go out and glean that which grew by itself, because the Lord made a promise to the children of Israel that if you obey my laws and keep my commands and walk with me, I'll make sure that the 6th year will be a double harvest and you'll have enough for 2 or 3 years. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And then at the end of, again, at the 7th year, there would be the sabbatical year. And then at the end of 7 of those, so after 49 years, you would have what is known as the Year of Jubilee. And again, the Year of Jubilee would be like the 7th sabbatical year in which you didn't work, but additional things would occur. And the additional things that would occur on the 49th year, and it actually ended up being the 50th year. So I've noticed a lot of people, when they discuss it, they sometimes are confused. Are we talking about year 49 or year 50? Well, it started at the end of 49 and it would go into the 50th year. So that's why there's this confusion. And so there would be the celebration, and the same farmers, you don't have to go to work, you don't have to go put in your crops. It will be there. There'll be a time for family, the time for worship, a time for celebration, a time for picnics, a time for anything that you wanted to do for a whole year. But in addition to that, there would be the releasing or the freedom of all of your debt. And if you were a slave, you would get to be sent home, probably more of an indentured servant who would work for a time. But people would go home, there would be reunions, the land would come back to its original owners, because God had intended that if you sold land, that you would prorate how much value there was in it. And so let's just say, for example, if it was worth $100, if you were almost to the year of Jubilee, you might only sell it for $5 because they knew that at the end of the calendar, then it would go back to them. So it would be prorated. It might be worth $100 now. It might only be worth $50 in the future. And then if it was a couple of months before the Jubilee, then it would be just a smaller portion. Whatever the case was, there would be rest, there would be freedom, there would be redemption, there would be reunion of all kinds of people coming together to rejoice and celebrate in the goodness of God in the land. Now, here's something that I really kept thinking about this in terms of how this would work out. And I realized that if you were a person who lived in Israel, how many years of Jubilee would you likely remember or likely experience? So if it happened every 50 years and it happened when you were 1 year old, then you would see another one when you're 50 years old. If it happened when you were 40 years old, the first one, what's the chances that you would live until you're 90 to see a second one? And so I guess the best way that I could describe that is simply for the children or the young people who were 30 years and under, when they saw a Jubilee, like if you had a Jubilee when you were 20,